From our Washington, D.C. studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. Black Lives Matter Plaza in D.C., a landmark of protests and racial justice, has been demolished following White House pressure. What's behind the move, and how are people reacting? This and more coming up later. Stay tuned. Our top story for today: military sources have confirmed that 190 hostages were freed and 30 militants killed in an ongoing security operation in Pakistan's Balochistan province. Heavily armed Balochistan Liberation Army, or BLA militants, ambushed the Jafar Express train on Tuesday. They blew up railway tracks and hijacked the train, holding 214 passengers hostage. Security forces launched a rescue mission, freeing most captives, including women and children. However, reports suggest that at least 10 passengers were killed, though officials have not confirmed the deaths. Troops remain cautious as some militants are reportedly wearing explosive-laden vests near the remaining hostages. 37 injured people have been transported to hospitals. Rail services to and from Balochistan have been suspended for 3 days following the attack. The banned BLA militant group has a history of targeting security forces and civilians, demanding Balochistan separation from Pakistan.
चीखो पुकार दी सब रहे थे, दाड़े मार रहे थे, बस कुछ लेट गए, हम भी लेट गए, पूरी ट्रेन में सब लोग लेट गए कि अपनी जान बचाए। बस बाहर से कुछ फायरिंग हुई, ब्लास्ट हुए, बस उसके बाद फिर जो ना हमें कहा जी आप लोग नीचे उतरे।
UNICEF warns that malnutrition among Rohingya children in Bangladesh has surged by 27%. The crisis is worsening as funding to the agency declines. The Bangladesh government blames the funding cut on the Trump administration's shutdown of U.S. aid, which supports 80% of the World Food Programme's aid to the Rohingya. More than 1.2 million Rohingya refugees now live in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar since fleeing brutal military violence in Burma in 2017, which some governments have called a genocide. More than 500,000 children now face emergency levels of malnutrition, the highest recorded cases since the mass displacement. Severe acute malnutrition rose 25% in January, jumping to 27% in February. The crisis is fueled by disease outbreaks, including cholera and dengue, along with food shortages. The situation worsens as another 100,000 Rohingya have fled Myanmar into Bangladesh in recent months. Food rations have already been cut, and from April 1st, the World Food Programme will further reduce aid from $12.50 to just $6 per person per month. UNICEF's Rana Flowers said these families cannot return home and have no legal right to work. Humanitarian aid is essential. With resources running low, UNICEF urges immediate international support to prevent further hunger and suffering in the camps. The Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C. has been dismantled. The removal follows threats from the White House to cut the city's transportation funding unless the site was renamed. The plaza was originally established in 2020 by D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. It became a symbol of racial justice after the murder of George Floyd, a black man, by a white police officer in Minneapolis that same year. In 2021, it was officially declared a permanent monument. The move to dismantle it came after Republican lawmaker Andrew Clyde introduced a bill demanding its removal. It threatened to withhold federal funds unless the mural was replaced with the name Liberty Plaza. On Monday, construction crews began tearing up the pavement and removing barricades around the artwork. Some locals described the scene as somber. While many were disheartened, others saw it as part of an ongoing cycle of political and social change.
And the first things that she does is that we give up Black Lives Matter Plaza. We give up homeless encampments, because clearly homeless people don't matter, Black lives don't matter, because she got bigger fish to fry. That's the priorities. And they think, the people that agree with her, that somehow if we capitulate to the whims of a fascist, racist regime such as Donald Trump is pushing down with Project 2025, that they will somehow leave us alone, that home rule will be preserved. And that's not how American history works. And that's the sad part about it. I think Political Magazine said it best. Trump 1.0 was the resistance. Trump 2.0 is the acquiescence. And that's what we're seeing.
If your eyes are open, your ears are open, your mind is open, you know that this is just the beginning. And I tell you what, my mother died in 2017. I miss her dearly, but I am so glad that she's not around to see this. Because, you know, she did the original March on Washington. I did several since that time, you know, and, you know, where's the pride in being a U.S. citizen anymore?
Hundreds marched in Chicago and New York calling for the release of Palestinian student Mahmoud Khalil. Khalil, a green card holder and Columbia University graduate student, was detained by ICE. He has not been charged with any crime. 14 House Democrats sent a strong letter to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem demanding Khalil's immediate release. Meanwhile, a New York judge has ordered Khalil's attorneys must be allowed to speak to their client. Columbia University is warning its school's international students and scholars community of possible federal travel bans that would restrict entry to the U.S.
Mr. Khalil is a lawful permanent resident. He was coming home with his U.S. citizen wife, who is 8 months pregnant, and he was taken by U.S. government agents in retaliation, essentially for exercising his First Amendment rights, for speaking up in defense of Palestinians in Gaza and beyond, for being critical of the U.S. government and of the Israeli government. Those are the reasons why he was targeted. Those are the reasons why he was detained. And that's the reason why the government also moved him to Louisiana in further retaliation for the fact that on the night of his arrest at home, he filed a habeas corpus petition in this court, which he also had a constitutional right to do. In retaliation for that, he was moved.
Harvard Divinity School is facing scrutiny after Associated Dean and Professor Hussein Rashid resigned last month, alleging anti-Muslim bias. In his resignation letter, Rashid claimed Harvard failed to shield him from targeted harassment by Jewish and Zionist groups on campus. He claimed harassment from Hillel International and Rabbi Hershey Zarchi of Shabbat. Rashid said that the school did not adequately address racist remarks directed at him. This is the second resignation of a Muslim faculty member at the university claiming similar concerns. It has intensified scrutiny of Harvard's commitment to inclusivity. Critics argue that the school's response to religious and racial tensions is insufficient, raising questions about its ability to protect minority faculty. Pakistani architect Yasmin Lari rejects a prestigious Israeli award, citing Gaza's genocide. Details come after the break.
Assalamu alaikum. This is the largest refugee camp in the world. 1 million people are sitting here, doing nothing essentially, cannot study, cannot have a living, and world has to give them, feed them bit by bit, little bit of food. I find children, all skinny children around me, and they're wondering what's our future. Since I came from America, they're asking me this question, what's the future for us? Please, join Burma Task Force. It's a coalition of 38 organizations Support Burma Task Force, join Justice for All, let's change the future for 1 million people sitting here in the world's largest refugee camp for 7 years. Join now.
Welcome back. Renowned Pakistani architect Yasmin Lari has rejected the 2025 Wolf Prize in Architecture. She cited Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza as the reason. Although the Wolf Foundation operates independently, its Israeli base influenced her decision. Lari also turned down the $100,000 prize, saying accepting it would go against her conscience. She conveyed her decision to the Wolf Foundation, expressing gratitude but refusing the honor. Lari called the situation in Gaza a genocide and said she could not accept an award linked to Israel. The Wolf Prize for Architecture has been presented annually since 1978. President Donald Trump is set to introduce a new rule requiring Canadians staying in the U.S. for more than 30 days to register with federal authorities. According to ABC News, the rule will take effect on April 11th. Canadians entering by land have not previously needed to register, but the Department of Homeland Security can change the rule without congressional approval. Those already in the U.S. must complete Form G325R. Fingerprinting will also be required. The move comes amid escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and Canada. Trump's tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum triggered retaliatory measures from Ottawa, including a 25% tax on U.S. electricity exports. Markets have reacted sharply, with the Dow dropping 7.5% in a month and the Nasdaq down more than 11.5%. Investors worry that Trump's aggressive trade policies could push the U.S. economy into recession. The European Union has hit back at the U.S. with new trade tariffs. This follows the Trump administration's move to impose 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports. The EU's response includes tariffs on U.S. goods worth more than $28 billion. The list covers industrial and agricultural products, including motorbikes, peanut butter, jeans, and farm produce. The measures mainly target Republican-held states, hitting soybeans in House Speaker Mike Johnson's home state of Louisiana, beef and poultry in Kansas and Nebraska, and produce in Alabama, Georgia, and Virginia are also on the list. European Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen said that the EU remains open to talks but will respond firmly. She warned that tariffs will harm businesses and consumers on both sides. The American Chamber of Commerce to the EU called for urgent negotiations, also warning of job losses and economic harm. The EU's countermeasures will roll out in 2 phases. On April 1st, tariffs from 2018 to 2020 will be reinstated. Additionally, duties worth more than $19 billion will follow on April the 13th. The EU steel industry could lose up to 3.7 million tons of exports. The U.S. is EU's second largest steel market. Britain will not impose tariffs for now, but says it will act if necessary. The trade dispute raises tensions between allies with billions at stake. The Department of Education is set to cut nearly half of its workforce following President Donald Trump's proposal to eliminate the agency entirely. In a statement, the department announced a reduction in forces that will affect around 2,000 employees. Those workers will begin teleworking from Wednesday before being placed on administrative leave starting March 21st. The department's workforce, which stood at 4,133 employees in January, will now shrink to about 2,000. Nearly 600 employees opted for voluntary resignation or retirement. According to officials, affected workers will receive full pay and benefits until June 9th, along with severance or retirement packages based on tenure. Education Secretary Linda McMahon claimed that the cuts are aimed at improving efficiency and accountability and ensuring resources are directed towards students, parents, and teachers. Former Filipino President Rodrigo Duterte has been handed over to the International Criminal Court, or ICC, to face charges of crimes against humanity. The ICC issued an arrest warrant against Duterte for alleged atrocities during the deadly war on drugs. Duterte was taken into custody by Filipino authorities on Tuesday and flown to the Netherlands with a stopover in Dubai. ICC spokesman Fadi Abdullah said an initial court hearing will be scheduled soon. Human rights groups and victims' families hailed the arrest as a major step towards justice. Amnesty International called it long overdue. However, opposition media claims Duterte was kidnapped by Philippines police. He will be detained at a Dutch prison complex near The Hague. His daughter, Vice President Sara Duterte, criticized the Marcos administration for surrendering him and has traveled to The Hague to consult his lawyers. The ICC began investigating Duterte's war on drugs in 2021. While official figures report more than 6,000 deaths, human rights groups claim the toll could be as high as 30,000. Duterte denies the claims and may challenge the court's jurisdiction as the Philippines withdrew from the ICC in 2019. However, the court remains in authority over crimes committed before the withdrawal. That's all from our Washington, D.C. studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We're a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum.